welcome to Up to Your Ears. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Josie. How's it going? Vanessa, how are you?
It's going great. Still have the holiday decorations up.
See that. It's nice and festive. I love it.
We have an awesome guest today. His name is Robert Walter. He is one of my favorite keyboardists of all time. I have been watching him play since the 90s. He is in a band called the Greyboy Allstars. He also has another band called Robert Walter's 20th Congress. Of other projects, and he is here to share some of his time and stories with us.
I cannot wait for everyone to get to know him just a little bit better, and especially me, because I don't know him very well at all. So I'm very excited to meet him and get to know him better.
All right, let's let him in.
Awesome. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good morning.
Oh, hey.
Morning.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited.
Yeah, stoked to do it.
Hi, Robert. I'm Josie, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Josie. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Vanessa, obviously, your pen pal from the internet. So, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I've been keeping myself busy by sort of diving into working on music, but there's no gig, so I can just focus on that, which is actually, it's been kind of a nice relief from always being preparing for the next show or whatever. So
I've watched a couple of your live streams. I played the skating one for my kid a couple times. He's 11, but that's one of my favorite. I love Charlie Brown and the Peanuts in general, but that was
I always love that song, and I think that's some of my earliest like exposure to that kind of music, to listening to jazz from when I was a kid, watching those cartoons. We didn't realize it, but we were all being indoctrinated with this really hip music. When I look back, I think it influenced me a lot. Yeah, I especially Vince Guaraldi's music in particular. It's like sophisticated. It's a little sad all the time. You know, I just loved how those cartoons played, where it's light and funny, but there's like a melancholy underneath all of it.
I never thought of any melancholy about it. But yeah, I mean, obviously associated with Charlie Brown, who is like the world's happiest, saddest guy.
Yeah, the characters are pretty complex for being, cartoon characters.
Okay, well, we can dive right into the questions here.
Okay.
So my first question kind of relates to what you were already talking about, and that is, when you were growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, and that's not a project your rep. That's actually true. I love it still. It's the same story every time, but there's something real comforting about it. I love the music. I love the way it looks. It's like right of my era, like early 70s. That was like, I really remember that being one of the first things I loved.
I definitely use the reference Old Man Withers on a regular basis.
Yeah.
God damn it, where is that thing? It was Old Man Withers.
Yeah, I love that still. Like I own all of them, like the first 2 seasons. I'm really into it. So
nice.
I was just gonna say, on Scooby-Doo, they also had those special guests, like
that just made me think like how cool that was. Now as adults, especially, Josie's a musician also. She plays bass. I am not. I just love music. And how interesting it is, like being an adult and being kind of in that environment and realizing that these are real people who have real relationships. And obviously somebody knew someone from the Harlem Globetrotters and was like, it'd be super cool.
Yeah, I have a feeling those were some executive discussions in the wild in the early 70s climate of television.
Oh yes. If there was one job that you see in the world that you think is pretty terrible, but for some reason you're driven to like want to try it, even just for a day, just to like really see what it's like, what would it be?
Oh, a job that I don't want, but I would like to try. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I always thought there's something about like acting in something that appeals, like that it would be kind of fun, but I'm real shy and I don't really like to be in front of the camera, but I always thought it'd be kind of, you know, I like to play Old Man Withers in the Scooby-Doo or something, you know?
That would be funny. I would watch that.
Yeah, I would
sure.
watch that too. Because acting is a really hard job. I think mostly because it's really tedious.
Yeah, it's actually more boring than you think, I think. You know, like I've been on a couple of film sets just from working in music, and there's a lot of sitting around.
Yeah. Okay, some music related questions. Beats or a melody? What do you prefer?
Oh, I'm more interested in beats for sure. I love melody and I love great chord progression and all that, but rhythm is really what makes me love music and what brings me back. And music that doesn't have a compelling rhythm, it doesn't have to be a big like traditional beat, like even some classical music has it, but something interesting rhythmically that's what makes me like music, you know? And those are the things I always come back to.
Okay. Phone at the table, yes or no?
I would say no. I'm guilty like everybody else, but I've been, especially lately, I've been really trying to put it away. I think we've all just become kind of desensitized to how much we're all in our own little bubble. You miss a lot of stuff from not being present in the moment and with the people that you're around and all that. And it also kind of starts to mess with your head. I don't think you're supposed to have that amount of information fed to you at all times. You know, it's becomes overwhelming and confusing.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm starting to like, one thing I was doing is, you know, I love to watch movies, but I'll start the movie and then I'll look up, I'll be like, wow, who's that actor? Who, you know, I'll look them up and then I go down this hole of like IMDb research and what other things are they in? And then I look up at the screen, I realize I missed half the plot. So I've been making rules for myself where I just put it away, turn it off, put it in another room so that I don't, so I can enjoy things. Same thing as listening to music. Sometimes I'll put on a record and I'll start researching all the sidemen and all that stuff instead of like enjoying it. So
I am the queen of that. I go down, Josie's all, because I'm the one who's like, you know, I will be listening to something and I'll say, well, who played the drums on that track? Or I'll say, did this singer write this? Or are they singing somebody else's words? You know, and then I'm like, ooh, who was this songwriter? Oh my God, they wrote songs for this person, this person, this person. Like, oh, I didn't know that. And then pretty soon it's like, what? And now you're looking up, you know, 1980s jams and you were listening to.
I mean, I love that kind of stuff. I've always been into that. Like when I was younger and I started getting into jazz records, I loved it because there were liner notes and there was personnel information. And then that's how I learned about a lot of the stuff I like. I'd be like, who played drums on Lou Donaldson? And then I'll buy Idris Muhammad's record and then it goes on and on. But it used to be there was some lag time where you just enjoyed that record and what that was about. And now it's so fast. And it's real hard to say no to because it is compelling information, but I feel like you miss what's happening sometimes.
That's a good thing about a record though. You can just start it over.
Yeah. That's the other thing I like about listening to vinyl is it makes you commit to the side usually, you know, where you're not like, oh, that was a cool song, let's skip to the next one. You have to put it on. It kind of forces you to think of it as a, you know, whatever, 40-minute experience.
Okay, last question for me. If you could add one piece of equipment, dream piece of equipment to your studio, what would it be?
I always wanted a ARP 2600. which is a sort of like modular it's a big modular synthesizer, sort of semi-modular, and they're expensive, and I never had one. But I've got a list of about 1 million synthesizers I wish I could buy, from back in like 70s, 60s, 70s synthesizers. But
Fun.
my dad was like into the Grateful Dead, and he also liked a lot of blues and New Orleans music stuff. That's kind of where I got into stuff. But his side thing, because he was into electronics, was being into synthesizers and electronic music. And this is like, mid 70s when that music was still fairly new. People had heard synthesizers, but not now. Everything has those sounds in it, and they were so exotic, and it reminded me of outer space, and like captured my imagination.
Yeah.
So I always loved that. And he had some stuff around the house. He was building synthesizers and stuff as a hobby.
And back in the days when you guys used to play Green Circle Bar every Wednesday, I would go down there a ton. That was like my Wednesday night haunt.
Oh,
And
nice. Yeah.
it was just such a fun place. And then when they busted through the wall and made it, a big place where like you really could dance if you wanted to and separate.
Oh, you were going when it was the tiny
growing.
version. Yeah, the small one was crazy. I had to set up in the line for the bathroom.
Yeah.
So, because there wasn't room on the stage for the keyboard. So there was a bench, and then I would put the Fender Rhodes like up against the bench on the wall, like a built-in bench to the wall. And then to get to the bathroom, you had to walk through the band.
It was crazy.
Like
and it was like almost
I was looking at Carl
those weird
Denson.
places where you could like sit on the edges of the wall. I mean,
there's people
were
who could sit
sitting
above me. Yeah.
up the walls to just like be in there.
Yeah, and it got super hot in there. Yeah.
Like I said, when they busted
Great.
through that
I
wall,
love
it was
that.
like, yes, freedom. It felt so huge, even though I know it really wasn't, but it felt that way.
There was something cool about that place too, because our night was Wednesdays. And so, if you had to be pretty hardcore to want to go out and stay out all night on a Wednesday in the first place. It's like
there was line out the door all the time.
And then it was also kind of like in a part of town where there wasn't a lot of other stuff. It's that area is built up a lot, but it was like blocks kind of off of the gas lamp. So it felt like it was self-selecting for people who were really like into it,
And it was dicey. It was not like a safe neighborhood back then.
Yeah, I feel like that scared away the squares and made it a better environment.
Okay, Robert, my first question for you is, what was your first ever show that you remember going to that you actually on purpose went to this show? Not like something that you went to with your folks, but like your first show.
My first concert was, I saw the band Rush,
Yeah.
like, Canadian prog rock heroes. And I actually went with my dad. My dad took me, but it was my music I liked. I don't think he was very excited about going, although he loved it, I think, after he went. And that was my first concert, and it did blow my mind. I got really like to see that to hear that level of volume, and it was a big concert with like lights, and I had been around live music because my dad was a musician.
Yeah.
But I'd never been to a show like that with volume and a production, and it was pretty exciting,
Super, super huge. On a side note, I saw Rush not that long ago, like within the last, I don't know, 8 years or something. But it was a bunch of, I think I was the only girl there, pretty sure. I'm just kidding. But I'm like one of maybe 10.
That's part of the thing, yes.
And it was like all dudes playing air drums. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is hilarious. I wish I had a video of that, because that was like almost as good as the show. It was amazing.
I think they did a good and terrible thing for musicians, because I do think there was so much like instrumental stuff going on in that music, but it wasn't so complex that you couldn't imagine you couldn't play it, but you could imagine yourself playing it as a young. I was a drummer
Right.
when I started, and it wasn't like you listening to jazz records and that stuff was way over my head. Like I didn't even understand how to do it. But Rush's music, the drums are so linear, but it's also real complex. So it kind of taught us all to like listen to that kind of stuff. And I do think it was like kind of good. The curse is everybody grew up in that and sort of has this fantasy of like having a million drums and playing it fills all the time. It's not applicable to all styles of music, but you know, I'm fond of that stuff still.
Okay, my next question for you is, which do you prefer, recording or playing live?
I prefer playing live. I actually really love to record, and it took me a while to get comfortable. I was always so nervous once you roll tape. We'd be great in rehearsing the song, and then we'd be like, okay, we're gonna roll the tape. And then now I've recorded so much that I feel like I don't really think about it. And I like knowing it's archival, and the other thing, knowing that you could fix anything. So you can sort of be loose and relaxed and experiment. But it doesn't beat the immediacy of playing for people and sort of, live is way better to me. Part of it is like the approval, like playing in front of a crowd and getting that, but a lot of it's just interacting with the musicians in real time and knowing that this is all we're going to do. We're not going to fix it. This is happening. And
speaking of playing with other musicians, have you ever been wowed or starstruck by another musician?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Either playing crazy.
I mean, I've gotten to play with a lot of my heroes over the years, because part of it is when Greyboy Allstars, we were into a kind of music that at that time was not very popular. Like we were into these jazz records that were not seen as legit to jazz people because they were, you know, they were influenced by soul music and pop music and things like that. And then they weren't quite funky enough for funk people. So they were like they were kind of bargain bin records actually when we first started liking them. And then eventually they became very collectible and became a thing. But so a lot of these artists were just, there were sort of points in their career where it wasn't maybe, I mean, you know, everyone was accomplished and had fans, but it wasn't like peak thing. So we were lucky enough to get to interact with a lot of the people we were really influenced by. So, you know, I've been around people like that a lot. But every once in a while in the middle of playing, you'll trip on, you'll be like, wow, I'm on stage with Maceo Parker or something. And you're like, I can't, how did I get here? But you do it enough where I don't think about that all the time. It'll happen like in the middle of the set. And I'll be like, how am I here? You know, or, you know, I played a lot with George Porter Jr. from the bass player from the Meters.
That's so cool.
And the Meters are like my favorite. Mm-hmm. They're really my favorite. That's like the Beatles to me, or still a lot of people are, right. You know, the Rolling Stones or something like that's like peak music. And I can't believe I know them. But when I'm playing, I don't always think about it. I think about like, how are we gonna, where's the chord change? Like what's happening next? You know, you don't have time to think about that. Of course. But when I reflect upon it, it's weird.
What advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
I don't think I would change a lot. You know, like I feel like I really am thankful, and I've gotten to do a lot of the things that I've, you know, I mean, I can't believe I've actually been able to be creative for a living and travel around and play with all of my heroes and done all this stuff. I mean, I would have learned to I would paid more attention to reading music and sort of I would take my piano lessons a little more seriously, because I had to learn all that stuff sort of reverse engineered later, backwards, you know, like later in life, I was like, wow, I better actually learn how to do this, because now I have to actually do it. But so, you know, I was always a kind of a lazy musician as a young person, but in a way, you know, that it made me less of a nerd, and it made me like embrace like going and getting in bands right away and not overthinking it too. So it all kind of worked out fine.
The final question that we have is really, what is going on with you now? Your projects, are you recording? Are you putting anything out? Like, tell us what you have.
For this year, we released a Greyboy Allstars album called Coma Day Allstars. a new album. We also at the same time pretty much released, re-released our first album, West Coast Boogaloo from 1994. And they're both out on Light in the Attic Records. We were gonna wait to be able to tour, but since this year there hasn't been any live music, we thought like this music's kind of, it's just sitting here and we want to, you know, get it out to people before it's old to us. And so we just put everything out, and it feels good to, like, I think people need music right now. And so anyway, and the records kind of make sense together because they're both recorded very quickly. In the last few Greyboy Allstars records, we had spent more time, and there's a little more studio production-y stuff. And this album was made in a room together, all playing live with like the instruments bleeding into each other, and there's mistakes all over it. And that's how the first record was made, like in one day, just real quick, sort of capturing the live documentary style, I like to call it. So, so those records kind of made sense to put out at the same time. They're like kind of bookends of us up to now. And then I'm working on kind of home recorded music during this quarantine because I have a lot of time, and it's kind of been, it's an interesting and fun thing. It's something I always wanted to do, is sort of like do a real solo record where I play all the different instruments and sort of like do stuff like that. So that's what I'm currently working on.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so let everyone know, or where can everyone find your music if they're not familiar with, or they like to purchase it? Where is your music available?
Well, you can get it from all of the normal spots. So, you know, I'm on Spotify. You can buy stuff on Apple Music. You know, I have a website, so robertwalter.com. My records have come out on Royal Potato Family Records, so look for that. Greyboy Allstars is on Light in the Attic. There's also greyboyallstars.com. You know, they're in all the normal places where we're well represented on the internet. Thanks for having me. I had fun doing it.
Yay! I'm glad, and thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you so much. And so well, that was awesome. I'm so glad took time out of his day to talk to us, and I'm very excited to check out his new music, and I look forward to hearing his solo stuff for sure.
What a really nice guy, and really grateful that he took time out to chat with us today. I love his keyboard stylings. I think he's a fabulously talented person, and we encourage everyone to check out his music. We'll put links in the description of this video. And if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. It puts our videos into your recommended. That's basically it. Also, when you subscribe, Josie has informed me that a little music fairy gets her wings. Isn't that such a nice thing?
You should do it. It's good for you.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Josie.